So you know how there's this stereotype of dudes in accounting and finance being kind of boring? It's not, nice, but it's kind of true sometimes. Not the case with Jim and Daniel of One and Done Financial. These guys are amazing. They distill some pretty heady stuff into really clear goals that you can follow, and they can dance. Seriously, take a look.
Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay. All right.
It's Titania Jordan.
Welcome to Connect for everybody listening. I am here with two amazing gentlemen, and it's One and Done Financial.
That's right.
Which is such a cool name, by the way. I'm like such a copy geek, so yeah, I love that. We'll get into that in a minute. But Jim R. and Daniel H.
Yeah.
Now pronounce your last names for me.
It's Rasmussen or Rasmussen.
Okay.
And Hanush.
Okay, cool. I wasn't
Safe.
I'll go in the safety zone and just let you say them. Great. So Jim and Daniel, One and Done Financial. What is One and Done Financial? What does it do? Why should I care?
Yeah.
Well, it started out after 20 years of working at Chick-fil-A. I was a financial consultant, so I was traveling across the U.S. helping franchise owners make more money out of the business. Well, as they made more money, they started going, what do I do with it? And so I started educating them on different things that they could do, and it got so much so that this is kind of where One and Done started. But part of my early years of consulting, I would come in and give somebody 10 things to do, and then I'd call them in a month and say, so how did you do? And they would say, I've done 2 or 3. Thanks for making me feel like a failure. And I'm going, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So over time, I learned that as a consultant, I would write down 10 things for them to do, but I would only share 3 things. So here's one thing for you to do this week, and you're done. Here's one thing to do next week, and you're done. So in a month, how did you do on those 3? I did 2 of them. Well, great, here's 2 more. And so we started eating that elephant one bite at a time, and I would see the change happen and the impact happen. So One and Done is about personal financial planning, where everybody usually gives you a big thick book of everything to do, and it's overwhelming.
Yes.
So how do we break that down into, here's one thing to do this week, and you're done.
The greatest journey starts with one step, and when you can help break it down for somebody into baby steps, it's just easier to digest, and it's very empowering. So that's great that you're doing that. Now I'm so excited to know the meaning behind One and Done.
Yeah, and you actually make progress with this approach as opposed to getting this gigantic plan and don't do anything with it after a year. So this way you actually make forward progress.
Yeah. It's funny, in church last Sunday, Andy Stanley of North Point and Buckhead Church and a bunch of other churches, was talking about finding peace in that margin. And one of the most compelling sermons that I've ever heard from him was talking about, as you start to make more, try not to spend at that same level, right? And have a greater margin, and that gives you freedom. So I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about that.
Actually, the one thing that I was thinking of is that the way I created more margin, because people think it's so hard. And so I like things that are simple. Simple doesn't mean easy. But one of the things I do with some clients is I play a little game with them to help them kind of catch up. So,
yes.
Here's some questions for you real quickly.
Okay.
All right. So I want you to see on the front of your laptop.
Oh.
I want you to answer these questions as fast as you can.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
What color is this?
White.
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 What do cows drink?
Milk.
They drink water. So what you find out is that how quickly you can be lulled into following a certain thought pattern. And so literally,
oh my gosh, you totally got me.
Everything happens. We watch other people and we follow into this thought pattern to follow what other people do. So in essence, one of the things I do is look at, you have a checking and a savings account, right? So when you get paid, you deposit things into checking. So let's just say you make, and I'm going to try to keep numbers simple, $5,000, and people like to save 10%. So we're going to transfer $500 over, right? So every time you get paid, you transfer $500. But everybody is on variable income. Now some people might argue with me, no, I'm $25,000 salary or $50,000 salary. Do you ever get birthday money, Christmas money? Do you get a raise? Do you have a variable income? Yes, everybody does. Well, what happens when you make $6,000? Are you the financial type that goes out and transfers $600? Well, that's still the wrong way to do it. What you should do is you should deposit everything else into your savings account. And what you told me from the first example is you live off of 4,500 because you'd had 5,000, you move 500, that's 45. So if you deposit everything into savings, you live off that 4,500, you're living off your checking account. Well, when you get paid 6,000 and you transfer 4,500, what did you save?
A lot more.
A lot more. Not the 600, you saved all of the increase. And so if you can do that, you will flatline your living and your margin will just grow and grow and grow. And in 6 months, I'm pretty sure you'll save more money than you ever thought possible.
That is such a beautiful and simple way
Simple
to present it, you know? And I'm so embarrassed because you totally got me. Like my 8.5-year-old is gonna just, he's gonna be like, yes! Because we've been playing that kind of game, which I'll tell you off camera, but yeah, he totally got me this morning.
But that's the concept to freedom margin. So we want to help people through the area of finance create freedom and joy that they otherwise wouldn't have, because money can be a burden. You know, if it's not managed well, it can shackle your future, it can affect your relationships. And so when we affect people and give them that margin, it creates freedom in all areas of their life. And that's kind of the motivation for what we do.
Well, you know, as I became part of this population of a married person, and things started to, you know, get past the fun newlywed phase, you know, we would have very heated conversations about finance.
Yeah.
We didn't always see eye to eye about certain purchases or the frequency of them.
Opposites attract in marriage.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But you know, the fact that money is like the #1 source of tension within a marriage. Talk about that.
So when people lay out their finances, I mean, when you look at your calendar, your checkbook, you're showing where your values are. And so probably disagreements and heats come from difference in expectations. And so, you know, the lack of communication, you're two different people with two different money perspectives. You grew up in different households. You know, the way your parents treated money, the way you interact with money growing up is probably different than your spouse. And so that tension, that difference in expectation on how to spend money, how to use money, what you spend money on, all that, you know, portrays your value. And so this difference in expectations can really cause tension. So part of financial planning is getting everything that you value on paper, not only for the short term, but mapping out your entire life. And at this stage of the game, you get husband and wife to talk through, what are my long-term goals? What do I value? Do I want that second home? Do I want to provide full education for my spouse, you know, my kids? Maybe not. Maybe you want them to struggle like you did through school. So all these things impact how you spend money today. And if you don't have that broader picture, or let's put it this way, if you do have that broader picture, you've got freedom because you're telling your money collectively together. You have that open conversation about where your money's going to go, and you're not shortchanging the future. You're doing that trade-off between the now, spending and enjoying life now, and keeping in mind your longer-term goals. And that reality helps people to make better decisions in the know. If you know how this purchase of a vehicle affects, end of life, cash flow, and if you can see that full picture, you make better decisions. And there's freedom, there's margin. You give grace to one another. Okay, you value this, I value that. How can we, plan our entire lives and still incorporate both goals? And then there's freedom. There's not this guilt with, oh, you spent money here, you spent money there. No, and budgeting and financial planning doesn't also mean that you can't have what you want. It's just saying, okay, these are what you want, there's trade-offs, how do we make everything work and still meet your long-term goals?
So that was very well put. Hopefully we have just helped many couples think about how they look at their finances and talk to each other about them. Jim and Daniel, when did One and Done start? What was the aha moment? Like, this is what we're doing. This is why we need to do this.
One and Done started August 2015. It was one of those things that I had been at Chick-fil-A for a while. I had been talking about financial planning since my early years. So it wasn't a surprise when I left after 20 years. This has been my passion. And so literally, I started it because I wanted to be able to legally give advice to people. Okay. And so I started the company and I had to do things pro bono. So I didn't market or anything. It was one of those, I said, God, if you really want me to do this, you're going to hit me over the head. Well, it was kind of obvious when Dan Cathy's talking in the atrium and he says, we need a call to commitment for 2020. And this was about 4.5 years ago. And I said, all right, God, I'm going to stay here at Chick-fil-A till 2020 unless you really knock me over the head. And so within 5 minutes of him speaking, I went downstairs, got my lunch, went up a back staircase, and a lady stopped me and said, I need somebody who can talk about making money out of a business and do financial planning. Would that be something you'd be open to? I'm going, I meant like 6 months to a year from now, not like hit me over the head in 5 minutes. So I was bawling upstairs in my office going, I think I need to leave. And so Chick-fil-A was very nice about working through and saying, okay, can you do it as a hobby and all that? So just looking through things, I had to start the company. And so a mutual friend of ours, I mean, he had already started his company. And you can talk about Blue.
Yeah, so for me, I was an engineer in a past life. So I'm kind of the Mr. Nuts and Bolts and attention to detail. But I knew I felt God calling on my life that I needed to assess passion. So I kind of, I studied chemical engineering in school and worked for General Mills for a few years as a project engineer. But I just always felt that I needed to assess what is it that I'm truly passionate about? What 20, 30 years from now do I want to hang my hat on and know that I was following the Lord's calling in my life? And so very early on I was evaluating, assessing, okay, what is it? Just really praying hard and interviewing people and just exploring different professions. And the financial planning, major influences from Dave Ramsey. I think that was for you as well. But to me, it was the aha moment that this is where I find joy. I can. It's numbers related. It's influencing people's lives. There's counseling involved in that. There's an entrepreneurial aspect. You can start your own business. So I went and got a full-time master's of wealth management and then started my own firm. This is before I met Jim. The beauty is that mutual connections put us together through Ronald Blue and Companies, where we both our paths had crossed earlier, and they heard my story, they heard Jim's story, and said, "You guys need to meet." And we have the kind of the nerd and free spirit aspect, and what we realized very quickly is together we can do more than we could do apart. Our skill sets are complementary, and we're not the same person, and we have different takes on things, and so for that we make a really good partnership. We're not the same person, so
that's so great.
Yeah, it's a total God thing how we met. And Jim was at Chick-fil-A, and he was saying how God had called him, but it's going to be a long path, and I was already in the trenches, hammering out, started a practice from scratch. And so again, together our skill sets just help us accelerate. And we had a clear, similar vision. We want to incorporate our faith. We wanted to do things ethically. We want to be fiduciaries where we're acting in our client's best interest. We were using similar technologies. And again, the faith aspect, wanting that to bleed through in everything we do. It was a great fit. And I think we had said, let's take it slow. And I think a week later we were working on
the partnership.
Yeah. So Jim invited me over to his house for grilling, and that was it. So.
Did he rap?
He didn't disclose that till way later. I think that might have changed things.
Yeah, stay tuned. We might get a little hint of some clean rap, and that's very exciting because y'all know how much I love rap. I'm on your website right now because I'm just such a visual person.
Yeah.
And I'm looking through this graphic that I don't even have to press the play button. I'm already like, yes, spend less than you earn, break the power of money, plan for financial margin, which we've already talked about, pay with gratitude, and debt mortgages the future. So those are all different aspects you need to think about. But what's this pay with gratitude concept?
That's the taxes element, which is not as fun to talk about. That's funny you honed in on that part, but pay taxes with gratitude. But ultimately what we want to do is give people a perspective on building wealth. Many people, it's not difficult. Most people are striving to increase their financial means for various things. But what we do is we give a biblical perspective. So we look through what does the Bible say about money, and ultimately we want to give a perspective on why to build wealth. Is it okay to build wealth? What to do with your wealth? How do you find contentment? Because in that video you'll see that we're the wealthiest nation in the world, but if you look at the statistics, we're not necessarily the happiest. And so there's not necessarily a correlation with more wealth, more things, more spending, more lifestyle. So we want to give perspective. What's the end goal? And it really comes down to two questions. Who owns the money in the first place? And how much do you really need?
That is so spot on. I'm in a point in my life right now where I'm like, I don't want more stuff. I want things that provide value to my family. It's great if they make my life easier. But again, throwing back to Andy's point, like, do I really need the iPhone X when I have the iPhone 8? Probably not. Probably not, right? That's just a little bit silly, or a lot silly. So yeah, it's really important also, and especially in this day and age, where we're all keeping up with the Joneses, and we're all living our best life on social media, and you're only seeing vacations and new cars and new clothes and everything's perfect and filtered and Pinterest worthy. Like, that really takes a hit on your budget.
Awareness, and I think that was this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Andy was talking about awareness is what drives some of that.
Yeah.
Frustration and dissatisfaction.
Right. Lack of what you think you should have, what everybody else seems to have. You know, where are the days when you would just get something fixed if it broke, you know?
Right.
And so that's huge. It's huge. Actually, Sunday afternoon, I went home and I looked around our basement. And I was like, what is all this stuff?
Yeah.
Why is it here? It gave away so much. You know, just put furniture out on the street, free sign. Like, I don't need to just get it. We don't need it. You can't take it with you when you die.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
And I remember Andy said one time, and it struck me probably about 8 to 10 years ago. He said, "You're going to be generous someday, and you have a chance to be generous now and see it happen. But you're going to be generous, and it's because you're dead, not because you're actually generous. So you might as well just go ahead and enjoy seeing your generosity play out while you're alive versus after the fact."
You know, I'm so thankful that my parents taught me to tithe from a very young age, because I know that some people, when they get their paycheck, they're like, like, I cannot give 10% away. Like, have you seen my finances?
Yeah.
Whereas if you are really, if that's instilled in you from a young age, it's exciting. Payday comes and I'm like, yes! Like, the first thing I get to do is
Joy.
write 10% and like give.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's part of our vision, you know, our mission in serving clients. We want to serve is to help them clarify their life goals and to live well and to give generously. And to me, the give generously, I mean, that's a huge component. That breaks the power of money, because if you're in this cycle of earn, spend, you're never going to be satisfied. And so giving, and you know, like, why does the Bible ask us, why does God ask us to give? And really, it breaks the power of money over your life.
Yes.
And so, I mean, Jim, I mean, giving is one of the main things that you love to focus on.
Jim, bring it on home. Bring it on home for us.
My challenge is that this is just kind of from my personal life, is that people would mentor and challenge me. And so 10% is a great start, but why stop there? Because in the New Testament, he talks about everything. So one of the things that my wife's very generous, and so I'm very numbers oriented. So together we kind of have that nice little friction. So it's one of those, I want to make money and you want to give it. What's the deal? So we made it an agreement. It said, you know, you want to be generous. How do we give away 50% of our income by the time I'm 50? And so doing that, checking the savings change, as that margin increased, we actually were able to increase our giving. Because margin kept going up, we increased our giving instead of our living. And so all of a sudden we were giving away 22%, and we didn't even feel it. But it was so exciting to see that we could help out multiple ministries. And so when I was leaving Chick-fil-A, one of the things that I was kind of going, hey God, why are you asking me to leave Chick-fil-A? Because I'm giving this and I can't wait to get to 50. That's going to be awesome. And he said, you know what? If you actually would help 100 other people give more, it's more for the kingdom than just yours. And since it's all my money, why don't you help others give versus just being yourself and getting that pride on the back of your shirt? Like, hey, I'm giving 50. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Help others enjoy and experience what generosity is like.
It's amazing. So, it's you know, I mean, I come from the startup world, and it's all about scale, and you're truly enabling giving at scale.
Yeah.
Which is very important.
And some of the things I would challenge others to think about is it's not just with money. So one of the things that I felt guilty for was we ended up moving from one house to another, and it was a lot bigger. And before we moved to it, we said, all right, God, if you really want us to have this bigger house, keeping up with the Jones type things, we've always had a vision of helping missionaries, like Operation Mobilization, anybody come in and live for 3 months, take care of them, and let them go back to the mission field. We said, put somebody in the basement if you want us to have this house. And one of the things that happened is at church, we talked to a lady. She ended up emailing us back a week later and said, this kid is looking to be an intern and wants to stay in somebody's basement for 9 weeks. So we emailed him and said, hey, we're thinking about buying this house. We have a basement you could live in. Where are you going to intern at? Chick-fil-A IT department. And now we got to live, and so we've had 7 people through our basement in the last 4 years. So we use what we have to help others. It's not just money, it's your time, your talents, your gifts. So what can you use to start impacting others beyond just the financial stuff.
Absolutely, and that's another thing too. I know that a lot of people out there are struggling with anxiety, depression, they're going through hard times. And I know one of the things that has helped me whenever I've been in a valley is to just get outside myself and help others. Like, you know what, I can't solve my problem right now. What can I do for somebody else? And you quickly change perspective.
Yeah.
What could everybody out there watching right now do for you? For example, you know, there's all kinds of amazing things right now thanks to the internet. GoFundMe pages and viral Facebook posts, people helping people out of nowhere, and it's just really cool the power that we have right now of an instantaneous society when anybody can reach anybody thanks to social. Obviously it has its downfalls as well, but I'm focusing on the positive here today. So with that, you know, we don't know who this is going to touch. So maybe there's somebody out there listening right now that might be the perfect fit for anything that you might need. So what might that look like?
So for us, hearing our story in our business and finding people that fit well. So we're not this mass production. We're not selling products. We're not, you know, writing insurance policies and selling, you know, investment products. We truly have this long-term relationship with clients. And so what that looks like is it needs to be a good fit both ways. And so you know, we're expecting to impact people's life their entire life and helping their children and have that connectivity between generations. And so we're looking, you know, for people that value the services that we bring and that fit well. So we do three things: financial planning, comprehensive financial planning. So we're not just looking at investments. Some people are like, hey, we've got money, I want to invest it, bring all your money, and that's all we do. We look at planning. You know, we have these heart-to-heart, these difficult conversations about life goals. That's the clarify the life goals aspect. What do you want to accomplish? You know, living with the end in mind. So if you want to look back from your, you know, your funeral and see what would you have wanted to accomplish, let's backtrack. Let's plan for that day so you live well now in light of that. So we do that full comprehensive plan. And it's not just money. You know, we look at insurance, we're not selling it. You know, how much do you need? Because part of protecting what you've done and protecting your loved ones is having the right insurance coverages. But we're going to objectively tell you what you need, how much, where to get it. We're not going to sell it. It's a conflict of interest for us to say, hey, you need this and we're selling it. So that's that. You know, we look at, okay, do you want to save for your kids' schools, estate planning? You know, how do you want to transfer your wealth over the generations? What's your giving plan? Tax planning. So a lot of the biggest expense for people is taxes. So how do you optimize that where you're taking advantage of all the deductions, especially for business owners? That's probably one of our specialties, is helping business owners do the most with the resources they've been entrusted with. So we look at that full comprehensive picture that takes into account all these different aspects. You know, powers of attorney. If you've got young kids, do you have a will that designates who the guardian of your children is in the case of your passing? So we look at all the things that aren't necessarily just, you know, money and investments. We look at cash flow. We want to create a roadmap between now and end of life with income and expenses and your various goals, and just map that out so you can make better decisions today. We do investment management, so part of it is, you know, this is the roadmap. Now you need help implementing. So where do I invest my money? What's the smart use given my goals, given my appetite for risk, given how much time before I need the money, so we can create that roadmap and invest. And we also help business owners invest through their business. So it's one of the smartest, most tax-efficient ways for business owners to save for the future and save on their taxes is to invest through their business, whether it's a retirement plan, 401k, SEP IRA, cash balance pension plan. So those are kind of three areas that we serve. You know, we're fiduciaries. You want to talk a little bit about that, you know?
Well, I mean, the bottom line out of this, what I would encourage people to do is I would say pick one thing. Find somebody you trust and start having somebody hold you accountable to accomplishing the goals that you have in your mind. Write them down and start with one thing this week and be done. And then if you can wake up on Sunday or Monday of the next week and think of one thing to work on and be done. And make that steady progress towards what God's called you to do. That would be the best. And if we're able to partner with you and it makes a great fit, we're happy to help. But if not, at least find somebody that you trust and can follow that as a fiduciary.
Yeah.
And the fiduciary is going to be somebody who's going to look after you and put your interests first.
Trust is everything.
Yeah.
For people who choose to place their trust in your services, where do they find you?
They can go to oneanddonefinancial.com. That's spelled out ONEANDDONNE financial.com.
Great.
Mouthful.
It's
Yeah,
very mouthful.
That's fine. We'll pop the link below, and
yeah.
you'll be able to click on.
So what's
Awesome.
beautiful about the way that we work together is we don't have to be face to face. We have an element. We're based out of Atlanta, Peachtree City, but we can meet face to face if you're in around there. But we do a lot of virtual stuff. So
70% of our clients are across the U.S.
That's so cool.
So-
I mean, because technology.
Yeah.
Technology
like,
is
it's
awesome. So
Love
if people
it.
want to see video camera, great. If they don't, we can screen share. We talk for an hour. I mean, it's just you schedule on our calendar when you want to move forward. We're not going to be pushing you. So you have the flexibility to schedule calendar meetings every month so that we can gradually move you through the process or talk and answer your questions.
What are some of the biggest hurdles people need to overcome before they can embrace the service you're offering them? Is it pride? Is it shame? Is it just lack of awareness that life
I think
is
it's
coming?
intentional. I honestly, like what we've seen, and it's not just specific to us, but people are busy and they hire. So you can absolutely go and research all this stuff that we talk about. You can become an expert in all these areas, or you can outsource it to a trusted advisor, someone you can trust, and that's our role. But even then, it's finding the time to implement and to engage. Engagement is probably the biggest challenge, because you let life happen, and you've got soccer practice, you've got all these business meetings, and so you don't have time to actually put time and effort into it. And so that's we're here to hold people accountable. So the hurdle to engage us is probably not high, but it's okay. Now we're going to give you things to do, but you've got to actually move forward.
I'd say to me, it's kind of, in my personal life, the way I try to design some of the business, because it addresses my personal issues. And so usually I've heard, my dad's a retired Lutheran pastor, so it's one of those, what do you preach on? What are you struggling with? Because everybody out there is going to be struggling with the same things. Yeah. So if I look, it's pride about opening up your finances and revealing that you have messed up. Well, newsflash, every single one of us have. I've messed up. I'm not perfect.
If you could see how much money I have spent on eating out this year, you'd be like, girl, we need to talk.
We need to have an intervention.
Seriously.
So I think that's what scares us, is that, okay, you're going to see this, and I've had multiple conversations that you feel guilty for not being a good steward, and you want to. And so we've all been there. So how do we help you overcome that anxiety? And a lot of stuff is behavioral finance. It's 80% behavior.
Right.
You already have a lot of the knowledge. So we're here to help hold you accountable to doing what you say you're going to do, not just saying it.
And there's a lot of noise too out there. There's pundits and there's all different experts putting stuff, and really our job too is to filter out the noise, to give clarity, give simplicity to what is it you need to focus on. Prioritization, because you have limited bandwidth, limited, you may know you need to do all these other things, but you don't know where they rank in terms of exposure and risk to you. So what's the most important thing to work on this week? And that's where, bringing an advisor on to help that outside perspective. So we have advisors, we're tax experts, but we bring on professionals to review our business, to give input, to get outside of our heads, and to provide that insight.
Wow. I love this quote on your website. Who owns it and how much is enough?
Yeah.
Those are some really key things for us all to really take a moment and engage with ourselves and think about, because it's so true. Finance touches all areas of your life. As we close, I would like to leave people with some really compelling takeaways. Obviously, your company name speaks to the ethos of baby steps, right? One step at a time.
Take a step, yeah.
But what's a good first step for people to take?
To me, the very first step that started the process is to create that margin. So in essence, it's making sure you deposit everything into savings and create a flat line. Now, some of the understatement is that people say budget and they get afraid. So then some people call it a spending plan so that you feel better. So it's one of those things that if you understand what the purpose of that spending plan is, it's to fatten your purse. So if you all of a sudden, instead of it being a constraint, it's to help you grow, it can kind of give you a mind shift that is to help you, not to hurt you. And that can be sometimes a mind shift of people being able to, oh, that's okay to create something and realize it's a flexible, moving guideline of where I want to spend my money. There's going to be hiccups, and not to hold yourself accountable to it and be so black and white on it.
So for me, I would also, on top of that, is to think about the end. Think about, take a moment, get out of the noise of your life, the busyness, just the cycle. Take a step back, maybe go on a retreat, maybe take your spouse if you're married, and get away just from the noise, unplug from the internet, unplug from the constant stimulation, and think about, okay, life is short. What is it that I want to accomplish in my life? And kind of, think about that, and then your life changes. A book that my wife and I went through recently, just honestly, it's revolutionary. It's not new, but it's just revolutionary, and that's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And just getting that, what's your mission statement as a person? What's your mission statement as a family? In the various hats that you wear as husband, father, wife, mother, son, daughter, co-worker. What are the things you want to accomplish in each of those things? If your dying day was X away, what is it between now and then you want to accomplish? Then you start living differently. And sometimes you need to bring on a trusted advisor to help you think through that. But really thinking about and living with purpose with the end in mind.
How does it feel to be doing what you feel God has called you to do? I mean, so many people struggle with what's my point in life?
Yeah.
Why am I here? They're treading water, right? And it sounds like the two of you are in a really solid place that you feel good about. What is that feeling like?
It's
freedom.
Freedom is, the stress is a different kind of stress. It's one of those that now I am removed from the expectations of what others have of me, and I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and so I don't have to worry about other things.
We're living in the middle of God's plan, and there's freedom in that. I mean, we started a business from scratch with no clients, no experience. Prior we were in different industries, and so it's God's story, and our growth has been exponential. I mean, 65% quarter over quarter, just magnificent growth, and it's God. I mean, it's not, when we're following Him, we took the risk, we took the plunge. I mean, for me, I had negative income for 6 months when I first started this. Had a new child just arrived, just finished school, my wife was no longer working, so all that stress, you would say, okay, well, that's not fulfilling. No, it is fulfilling because you're in the middle of God's plan, and He will provide. He's faithful to take care of His own, and so that is liberating.
It doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
No.
It doesn't mean that you're going to just coast in life, but there is something in there, because some of the things that we talk about is that we focus on financial, but also the discussions that we have is what is the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual impact in your life. So sometimes you might make a great financial decision, but if you could do something that maybe you don't get as much return, but it helps you in the other areas of your life, as a person, you feel better. So those are the discussions and things that we have, and it's something you have to experience to almost believe.
And financial independence. So some people think about retirement, and they're like, I don't ever want to retire. If you love what you're doing, you may not retire, quote unquote. But we want to help people create enough margin and live on a plan where they can work or not work, or work in the area where they're passionate about, and they're not worried about earned income or a paycheck in order to sustain life. And so when you reach that stage of financial independence, it's not necessarily retirement. It's just freeing you to work where your passion, where God's calling you. And so that's what we help people work towards, and we strive to make it simple and easy. But releasing the golden handcuffs of living in that rat race and that just continual cycle of earn, spend, not creating that margin, not living with purpose. For me, it was releasing the golden handcuffs, realizing, okay, if I stay in where I'm at, I've got plenty of money, plenty of great benefits, but it's not where God's called me to be, and I'm going to be unfulfilled looking back 20, 30 years. I want to live with the end in mind.
Jim and Daniel, you have given me a lot to think about. Thank you. I'm sure you've given everybody listening and watching a lot to think about as well, and I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on today, and thank you for what you're doing in this space and on this planet. It's an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.